Howdy there, Isaac here. A villain turned hero isn't the best trope I could have done, and a sorta romantic Toga story isn't exactly what I was going for, but hey, it's what we ended up with. Either way, we left off with the attack on USJ and Toga taking out an interesting little vial of blood, one which she had wanted to save for later. Without further ado, let's see what may have happened if Toga became a hero. The story starts now. Iida, being the best fit to run to UA proper, was ordered by 13 to make a dash towards the entrance. Of course, Kurogiri, being the apt babysitter he is, told the kids they weren't going anywhere. However, he noticed that one of the students had disappeared. While the purple mist monster was monologuing, Toga managed to transform into Hagakuri, that invisible girl for those who don't know her name. Now, while we all know Toga's quirk evolves or he awakens later on, this isn't her quirk evolving. We don't know what would happen if Toga used her quirk on someone like Ojiro. Would she transform into him with or without a tail? In my opinion, people with quirks they can't turn off are just hard baked into their DNA, which means if Toga transformed into them, she'd look exactly like them, down to including their quirk. What this means is that for the next couple minutes, Toga is invisible, aside from the knife she was carrying. She'd have to thank Hagakuri-chan for this later. Iida made his mad dash for the door, this being the distraction the blonde had waited for. Kurogiri and Iida were fast. It took everything Toga had to catch up with the villainous babysitter, but she did. She jumped onto Kurogiri, saw the metal armor protecting his body, and plunged her knife under it. This caused Kurogiri to fall to the ground, grunting in pain from, well, the knife stuck under his ribs. He attempted to look up and open a warp gate in front of Iida, but his sight was blocked by Shoji, who congratulated Toga on capturing the villain. But Toga, well, she was distracted. Kurogiri's wound was leaking blood, so much so that it began to pool on the ground, and the blonde was unable to focus on holding down her target. Her transformation ended, but she didn't care. She was too focused on her prey. The blonde could feel Kurogiri's heartbeat through her knife, and the blood that oozed out looked so enticing. Despite not finding him cute, Toga had the urge to drink his blood. I mean, it was a waste to just leave it pooled there on the ground, right? But before she could do so, the villain warped himself away, getting back to his master Shigaraki. This was enough to snap Toga back to reality, her realizing she was now naked in front of the class. Luckily, Shoji had the decency to cover her up with his dupli arms, and Ochacco brought over her hero uniform. The blonde thought about how she had gotten so distracted by that villain's blood, how she could have stopped him. Now, he was back with that skinny guy. What if Kurogiri used his quirk to help that guy escape, or worse, hurt Izuku or Ochacco? Toga berated herself for being unable to control her urges. She vowed to stay focused on capturing the villain next time, not for her, but for her friends. She'd prove she could be a good hero like Deku and Ochacco. The blonde wiped off her knife and readied herself to help Izuku, who had just escaped the shipwreck zone. 13 would order her to stay put, but of course, she was a renegade for life and didn't listen. What kind of hero would I be if I didn't help my friends? I can't just sit here while everyone else risks their lives. With that, Toga raced down the stairs, only to be shocked by the wrecking of Aizawa. Nomu beat down Aizawa, while Shigaraki goes to decay Izuku, Froppy, and Grapehead Guy. However, Toga, being the speed demon she is, races over to protect her friends. Shigaraki and Kurogiri notice this, the latter opening a portal which teleports Shigi's hand onto Toga's face. While Toga is fast here, she isn't quite fast enough to dodge this, but lucky for her, Eraserhead is cool and erases Shigi's quirk. But the blonde isn't going to be too shocked to move or something. Oh no. Unlike Izuku, she smacks his hand away and then quickly drives a knife into his palm.
Ah, you damn kid. I thought heroes weren't supposed to use lethal force like this. You could have killed me,
Shigaraki yells, pulling his hand back out of the portal and decaying the knife.
Your arteries loop around the knuckles, you idiot. You're fine, you big baby,
Toga yells back, pulling out another knife from her sweater. Shigaraki simply grunts in frustration and begins scratching his neck. He's about to order Nomu to kill this stupid girl, but All Might runs in and tells everyone to get Aizawa away. Toga agrees with this, as it'd be best to keep Froppy and Izuku far away from the battlefield. Izuku tries to argue, but the blonde simply pushes him towards the exit, citing that they need to stay out of the way. However, just as she says this, All Might gets trapped by Kurogiri's warp gate and Deku rushes off to save him, causing Togu to rush off to save him. She knows that Kurogiri seems to be the crux of Shigaraki's plan and is the most troublesome of the villains there. She really should have taken care of him earlier. The two hero hopefuls rush over, but the other students of 1A get there first, with Shoto freezing Nomu and Bakugo using his stealth bonus to sneak attack Kurogiri. Nomu is ordered to free the Mist Monster, but once he is freed, he looks over to see where the other students are, and once again notices Toga is gone. Now this gets him a little frightened, as, well, she was the girl who cut him. Once All Might begins fighting Nomu, Kurogiri is once again distracted, and that's the moment he feels someone jump onto his back and stab a knife into his torso once again. Toga had managed to sneak around the villains using Hagakuri's form once more, and was now finishing what she had started. She tried throwing a knife at Shigaraki, but the shockwaves from Nomu and All Might made it fly off, so she instead used her last knife to threaten Kurogiri. With one knife in his gut and another at his neck, the Mist Monster was unable to move or help Shiggy in any way. Once Nomu is defeated, Tomura is just stunned, and Kurogiri, being held hostage, is unable to rally the young man.
Kurogiri, I don't like this. Take me home now,
Shigaraki says before turning around and finally noticing that his attendant had been captured. The villain attempts to attack Toga, but with everyone else there, he quickly gets blown up and frozen.
No, I can't be defeated like this. This isn't game over. I have to defeat All Might.
As Shigaraki is freaking out, Kurogiri begins to stir under Toga. She quickly presses the knife against his neck and warns him not to move, but he simply states he only lives to protect Shigaraki. The Mist Monster pushes Toga off of him and looks over to Shiggy, instantly warping him away. But just as he does this, a knife gets jammed into his neck from Toga, who instantly regrets the decision. She didn't mean to hit him in such a vital spot, she only wanted to stop him, not kill him. Toga laments her split-second decision as she watches Kurogiri stumble and fall to the ground. With the last of his strength, he begins to warp away, saying his last words to the heroes as he disappeared.
I protected him, so he could defeat you all.
The Mist Monster then disappeared, just as the other heroes arrived, but the damage had already been done. Everyone was checked for their injuries and had to make a report, including Toga. Everyone, even Deku, had been a little distant with her, and she understood why. Ending a villain's life was a huge no-no for pros, but it was even worse if a student did it. She didn't really care what the heroes or cops thought, but all her friends were looking at her like she was some kind of villain now. In reality, that wasn't the case. Everyone was simply uncertain how to approach this situation. But in Toga's head, they looked like they hated her. These anxious thoughts only worsened once the cops told her she would be in quite a bit of trouble for what she did. Luckily though, Deku stepped up in this moment and defended her. She was just trying to protect everybody. She didn't mean to strike a vital area, but if she didn't, who knows what they would have done to us or All Might? He could have warped the other villains away too. Toga was dumbfounded. Shouldn't Izuku hate her for doing something so unheroic? Why was he defending her, and from the cops of all people? Oh, don't get me wrong, young man. I can't see myself doing any better in her situation. Tsukauchi walked in. But the law is still the law. We'll go easy on her though. As for you though, he turned to Toga. Maybe we need to figure out a less lethal option as a weapon. Toga was given community service for 6 months, since they technically couldn't confirm Kurogiri's death, but she still needed to be sentenced with something. After Deku's defense and Tsukauchi's words, The students all felt more at ease with Toga, and by the time school resumed, everyone was back to being all chummy. The important thing to note is, while everyone is getting pumped for the upcoming sports festival, Ochacco and Iida talk about why they want to become heroes, money and family business respectively. The question is then posed to Toga, who quickly turns red. "Well, I came here to be accepted." Toga says timidly, but before anyone can question it, she quickly hugs all three of them. "I want to be a hero so I can have lots of friends." The four admit it's a bit selfish, but accept it as valid anyways. After all, that friendship is what saved them at USJ. Now, while Izuku is being pushed to do well at the sports festival and everyone is getting pumped, Toga starts to dread the day. She was initially pumped, but when her family heard the news, well, they quickly jumped on the chance to promote their brand. Now, this is all headcanon, like, the entirety of this what if. But in this what if, I'm going to say Toga's family owns a small makeup brand. Nothing that makes them absurdly rich, but it does make them small celebrities in their community. Either way, Toga didn't like their style of makeup. She was more of a fan of her crazy but cute look, rather than the traditional beauty her parents valued. But with the prospect of her parents' love and acceptance, and their promise to make her look cute, something she hoped Izuku would think, Toga finally accepted their offer. Something else that made her anxious about the sports festival was, well, the whole event really. While Toga didn't mind being the center of attention with her friends, she didn't exactly like it when she was the focus of hundreds or thousands of strangers. She was usually the support or the rogue of her group, and so to be in an event where everyone could see her, it definitely made her want to use Hagakuri's blood. Toga would actually rant about this to Deku one night while they were on call and studying. The teen would try to help, saying he felt the same way, but All Might told him to do his best, and so he would. He just had to control his power better. This prompts the two to begin talking about their quirks and how they could use them in the sports festival. Toga gets a few good ideas from Izuku, but in turn she asks how he was able to use his quirk at USJ without breaking his body. "I don't know. It's like my whole body just moved on its own. I didn't think about using it, I just wanted to protect you," Izuku said nonchalantly. Once Toga got over her initial blushing, she realized something. "Wait, so your whole body moved and you didn't think about using your quirk? Have you been thinking about using it this whole time and only using it in your arms or legs?" Yeah? Am I not supposed to do that?" Toga facepalmed before explaining how she uses her quirk, focusing on transforming her entire body, spreading it all out evenly, not just transforming her head or her arms. Now this causes Izuku to start testing his quirk out. The two begin talking about how he could use this new form, while Toga got an idea of how she could maybe combine her transformations together, instead of just having one at a time. But I'll go into that later. By the time the festival rolls around, Izuku has full cowl, but it's only at 3%, not too broken, but very powerful, and Toga has something up her sleeves as well. But that's not all she has. She also has a face full of makeup, something that gets a lot of compliments from the girls of 1A, except for Sue and Ochacco, who say it's pretty but doesn't suit her style. This causes Toga to hug her friends, thanking them for liking her how she normally was. Anyways, the festival starts and the first obstacle is pretty easy. Toga and Izuku easily avoid the robots with their speed and agility. The two are neck and neck, being right behind Shoto and Bakugo, but once they get to the landmines, Izuku tells Toga to go on ahead of him. She's a bit hesitant, but he says he'll be okay and starts to do some stretching? Toga is confused but complies and starts racing through the field, a few mines exploding behind her, but she's quick enough to just barely avoid them. However, as she's making progress, she suddenly sees Izuku flying above her. The hero hopeful lands on a nearby mine and then jumps into the air, the explosion sending him flying many meters forward, him quickly catching up to Bakugo and Shoto. Toga smiles as she watches him surpass them, before remembering, hey, she should probably keep running too. Toga finishes the race in 10th place and congratulates Izuku on his placement, but once the cavalry battle is revealed, she suddenly feels a little bad for Broccoli Boy. However, unlike the anime, Izuku immediately has a friend there with him. Of course, while Toga could make her own team, she's gonna stick with Deku. Ochacco joins, and while Mei makes a good case for her inventions, Deku ends up going with Tokoyami, since his quirk is much more versatile. As the battle begins, Team Midori gets stuck in mud, but using Ochacco's quirk and Dark Shadow as a grappling hook, they're able to effectively escape. However, since everyone woke up and chose violence today, Izuku's team is assaulted by both Team Shoji and Tetsu. With full cowl and Dark Shadow, Izuku is able to evade most of the attacks aimed at his headband, and Toga, who was waiting to be useful, finally transforms. The girl turns into a giant hulking man, using one hand to hold Izuku while the other punches Shoji away. Team Tetsu gets pushed back by a combination of punches from Toga and Dark Shadow. However, this is the point where Bakugo flies at them, only to be blocked by Best Boy Dark Shadow. You guys are seeing the theme. Overall, the race goes smoothly. Even when Shoto confronts them, Izuku is able to push his full cal to 4% and just barely dodges the Recibro Burst attack aimed at him. Time runs out and Team Midoriya cheers at their success in keeping their points safe, much to Bakugo and Shoto's frustration. Everything turned up Millhouse for Team Midoriya, and they look forward to the next phase, the tournament. Toga is unsure of her abilities in a 1v1, but Izuku and Ochacco say she'll do fine, especially with their transformations. Izuku and Shoto have their secret conversation that both Bakugo and Toga listen in on. Lunch is had and Toga loads up on new blood, just to make sure she can transform. During this break, she notices her makeup has been smudged and overall ruined. Her mom had packed a spare makeup bag just for this occasion, but Toga found herself just staring at it, not wanting to put it on. You don't have to wear that, you know. I don't wear it myself, mostly because it just gets messy when we do hero work, Ochacco said, approaching the blonde. Yeah, but my family wanted me to, and, well, I want to look pretty for Deku. Toga blushed a bit, finally outwardly saying that she actually liked Deku. Well, what if he thinks you look pretty already? I mean, some guys like that sort of thing, natural beauty and all. Ochacco tried her best to help. She wasn't really into girly girl stuff, but she hoped she got through to Toga. The blonde sighed as she prepared to do what she knew she had to. You're right. Screw this makeup stuff. Toga turned on the sink and began to wash whatever makeup was left on her face, before turning to her friend and hugging her. Thanks, bestie. I think we both look better without that stuff. After this, maybe we should hang out. Ochacco agreed to this, although stated that they should focus on the tournament first. The students then pulled lots and got their respective matchups, with Toga replacing Mei and fighting Iida her first round. Izuku beats Shinzo even harder, Shoto beats the tape guy, Plant Girl beats Kaminari, and then we get to Toga versus Iida. The two are facing off. They don't exchange any words or anything, they simply prepare to fight. Iida is able to zoom around, but Toga is able to dodge the attacks, just barely though. The two are overall pretty even, though Toga isn't able to get any hits on Iida, while he's doing just fine. The blonde is slowly getting pushed back towards the edge of the ring, each kick or hit she receives sending her back further. However, as the fight drags out, she's able to read into Iida's moves better, allowing her to dodge and weave around him. Soon, the two are at a complete stalemate, with Iida getting more and more frustrated at not being able to hit his opponent. What's wrong? Can't hit me now? If only you were a little faster, Toga taunted, which prompted Iida to use his Recibro Burst, but that was exactly what Toga wanted. As Iida stepped back to use his technique, Toga began to turn into Hagakure. Her opponent attempted to stop, but his speed was too great to change a direction, though he was certain Toga wouldn't be able to dodge such a speedy attack. He was half right, as Toga knew she couldn't outright dodge, but she had a different plan. Taking a page out of Izuku's book, she charged forward, ducking onto the ground and used her body to trip Iida, something that sent the teen flying out of the ring and onto the grass below. The crowd was a mix of cheers and confused murmurs, but Toga didn't care, as she saw her friends cheering for her, and that was all that mattered. Meanwhile, in a dark, dank bar, Shigaraki sat, watching a TV while rubbing the wound on his hand. He was watching Toga in her fight, grinding his teeth as she won.
Why won't you just lose already, you bastard?
She's a prodigy like you, Shigaraki. Did you really expect her to lose this early? All for One spoke through a monitor next to Shiggy.
If she won't lose, then I'll just have to kill her. I need to avenge Kurogiri after all.
Shigaraki began to scratch at his neck, growling as he watched Toga celebrate her victory. Speaking of which, I think you'll find your new partner sufficient while I work on him. Suddenly, an orange line in the air opens up. Hands pop through it and begin tearing the air open, revealing a portal where a Nomu is standing. It isn't as good as Kurogiri. Only someone as strong as a Nomu can use this quirk. But it should work for your purposes, All for One said. The Nomu walked in, the portal instantly closing as she let its sides go, and kneeled in front of her new master, venom in her eyes.
If kill Toga Himiko is your wish, then kill her we shall.
But that's where we're going to leave it off for right now. Hope you guys enjoyed this part. If you did, maybe non-fatally stab that like button, or even rub the makeup off that subscribe button. In all seriousness though, what do you guys think of this new female Nomu? I'm honestly really excited to add a female Nomu. Anyways, what about Deku getting full cow early? Also, wow, we're super close to 300 subs. 14 at the time of writing this, and I think like a couple less at the time of recording. What do you guys want for a 300 sub special? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, I'll stop rambling. You guys have a good day or night wherever you are. That's it for now. Bye bye.